The contents of this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. If you have a specific health concern or condition, please consult a qualified healthcare professional for more details. Check out herguru.uk/disclaimers.
Each great story teaches us something about being human. I'm Cheryl Paris and this is Work Stress Anxiety. Together, let's borrow a little wisdom from a story to help us navigate a very modern world. Welcome. Before we start, I just want to say thank you to all my listeners, and I'd like to introduce a listener from Temple Hills, Maryland. Welcome to the show. I hope you always find the show useful. So let's get started. Today, I want to talk about and introduce you to Frederica. She's 51. She loves horse riding, skiing, ice hockey. She's an interior designer, okay, but she seems to have a problem. Yeah, the problem seems to be that her capability, the fact that she's so good at what she does, has become a bit of a costume. It's interesting because one of the things I find fascinating about high achieving women is how often we are praised for the very thing that is quietly exhausting us. Just like Frederica, you're reliable, you're calm, you're that safe pair of hands. You know, you're the one person who comes in when everything else goes sideways. You catch the fire, you arrive with the words, could I help? And of course you do, because you can, which is precisely the problem. So whether you're listening on the school run, walking the dog, sitting in the car before work, or you just happen to be staring at your laptop with dead eyes, optimistic, or someone pretending one more coffee is going to fix some structural problem, I am so pleased you're here, because today we're talking about Frederica, the capable one, and more specifically, what happens when capability stops being a strength and starts being a costume that somehow you can't take off. So I introduce you to Frederica, interior designer. She manages people. She absorbs pressure. She remembers all the birthdays, the deadlines, the school shoes, the policy changes. But she also cries in the toilet that she was last Tuesday. On paper, Frederica, she is brilliant. But in reality, she's tired in the same way sleep doesn't quite touch. Every morning, Frederica puts on this version of herself. Everyone recognizes the calm face, the useful voice, the tidy, empty toe, the tidy email toe, the little no problem she types, which, while her actual soul is leaning across the desk, and it's, in fact, this is a problem, but she sends it anyway because being difficult feels more dangerous than admitting that she's becoming depleted. You know, that automatic yes. Someone asks if she can take on one more thing before she has checked her workload, her diary, or even just checked her basic energy, or even the basic laws of time and space. But she has said yes, not because she wants to, not even because she has capacity, but because some part of her learned a long time ago that being useful keeps you safe, it keeps you light, it's left alone. Are you like Frederica? Because one of the most interesting things I have found, and here's the contradiction I can't ignore, Frederica is admired for being capable, but the more capable she is, the less people think to ask whether she's coping. It's a very neat little workplace trap. Performance, performing steadily well enough that people start mistaking your silence for capability. You know what this reminds me of? I know it's so naughty, but I keep thinking about Mr. Darcy. You know, Fitzwilliam Darcy, you know the one, which is probably not where your HR training expects this episode to go, but here we are. Darcy walks into a room wearing pride, like formal wear, doesn't he? Control, contain, impressive, so impressive, completely unbearable at times. Well, but the point is the performance protects him until it doesn't. That capable persona is a bit like that. You know, it looks polished from the outside. It says the right thing. It does the right things. It keeps everyone at safe distance from the panic inside, the panic underneath. But after a while, the costume gets tight. You can't move in it, technically. But after a while, the costume gets tight. You can still move in it, technically, but you can't breathe properly anymore. And to be clear, we're not here to sneer at any part of you. The capable version probably has helped you survive. It may have got you your promotion. You're now trusted, you're taken seriously, and through a room where nobody was particularly interested in your feelings. You know, Frederica, she may have, got through this. She may have earned her keep. She may have done a lot of unpaid overtime, just like you. But perhaps the question now is not, how do I become less capable? Perhaps the better question is, when did capability become a price I have to pay to feel safe? Because that's where the real work begins, not in blaming yourself for over-functioning like Frederica, but in understanding why your nervous system keeps reaching for it like some familiar coat, even when the weather has changed. You know, one of the things I find fascinating, truly, is how many of us are not actually responding to the present moment. We're responding often to an old rule book, that had rules in it like don't disappoint people, don't need too much, just don't make a fuss, and certainly don't be difficult. Don't let them see me wobble. Keep coping, keep smiling, girl. Keep the plate spinning and try not to bleed. Definitely not on the carpet. And those rules may sound dramatic when you say them out loud. They do sound dramatic when you say them out loud, but inside your nervous system, they can feel completely sensible. Isn't it interesting if just saying yes once kept you safe and kept the peace, your body remembers. If being useful made you feel safer, guess what? Your body remembers. If being calm got you praised, while being upset got you judged, guess what? Your body absolutely made a note of that in permanent ink. This is interesting because this is where Darcy becomes useful again. His pride is not just arrogance, as beautiful as it is. It's an armor, not an attractive armor necessarily, more emotionally constipated than ideal, but armor nonetheless. I'm sure you know many people like Mr. Darcy, and many capable women have their own version of that armor. Competency, control, helpfulness, quiet, durant, a tidy inbox, and a collapsing nervous system. Hey ho. Maybe the real issue was never that you were too capable. Yeah? Maybe the real issue is that capability became your way of staying safe. You know, if I cope, I won't be criticized. If I help, I won't be rejected. If I know the answer all the time, I won't be exposed. If I never need anything, nobody can ever be disappointed in me. Maybe you need to rethink that because that sounds incredibly exhausted, but may internally strangely sound logical. And workplaces, let's be honest, often reward this beautifully because they love the person who absorbs all the pressure without asking awkward questions about priorities and staffing and resources and boundaries, or whether one human being is now expected to operate like some anxious photocopier. The system praises your resilience while quietly increasing the load. But guess what? Your body is not fooled by praise. Interestingly, what I found is that your body notices the jaw tension. It notices the shallow breathing, your stomach dropping when another message lands. And then you start noticing your sleep that starts breaking at 2:03 in the morning, because apparently that's when your brain opens its complaint department and your nervous system isn't interpreting your success. It's trying to make your success sustainable. But interestingly, here's the contradiction I think can't be ignored. You may be respected because you never drop anything, but you are human. You are human. You're not a shell. You may be trusted because you always cope, but coping is not the same as being well, is it? You may be praised for being easy. Oh, but let's face it, easy can become very expensive when the cost is you. So maybe there's a deeper truth to this. Somewhere underneath that automatic yes, there is usually that old rule that says, I must always cope. I must always be available. I must always know what I'm doing. I must never disappoint anyone. Even Frederica said, I must be impressive enough not to need anything. And vague guilt is horrible. And named rule is something we can actually work with. So let's think of it this way. Now, the answer is not to smash the rule dramatically and announce, you've got some new personality on LinkedIn. Please don't do that. Okay. The internet has suffered enough. What I want you to think about is if your nervous system has been used to that kind of rule for years, it's not going to appreciate ripping it away like some sort of emotional plaster. No. We don't need to demolish the whole house here. We just maybe need to open a window. So let's put it this way. We're not going to try to destroy the capable version of you. We're going to do something maybe a little bit more simple. We're going to update your job description because the aim is not to become less committed, less professional, less reliable, or even less of you. The aim is to become capable in a way your nervous system can actually afford. So let's begin with relief. One of the things that I find really interesting is that we're not here to destroy the capable version of you. Like I said, you've done a lot of unpaid overtime. Like Frederica, you may have protected yourself. She may have helped you earn. Frederica may have helped you earn your trust, that you have avoided criticism. Like her, that feeling of belonging, surviving and keep going when stopping didn't feel safe. So no, we're not firing. We're not firing you. We're just reviewing the contract. Because what we're interested in is a healthier alternative. A healthy alternative is not becoming less capable. It's becoming sustainably capable. Capable with limits. Reliable with honesty. Helpful with capacity. What does that sound like? How does that sound to you? Professional without self-abandonment, or being committed without treating yourself like you're a piece of office equipment. Because the aim is not to become less capable. The aim is to become capable in a way that your nervous system can actually afford. Now, in the ABGW method, A is for awareness, and awareness comes first. Not because awareness is fancy, because you can't change a rule that you haven't actually noticed that you've been obeying. The first step is not a boundary, it's not a speech, it's not marching into work with some new energy and actually terrifying everybody. The first step is noticing what's actually going on. So here's a little experiment that I'd like to try out. Pause before yes. Not a dramatic pause where people think, it's frozen out, the electricity's gone off. Just a small interruption into that old pattern. Instead of saying, yay, no problem, why don't you think about it like this and say, let me check what I'm already committed to and come back to you. And that pause is not a rebellion. It's literally about you reclaiming the steering wheel before your capable persona drives into another ditch. Then, when you have a quiet minute, finish this sentence. At work, I feel I must always what? I must always cope. I must always be available. I must always say yes. I must always know the answer. I must always make everyone else happy. The thing is, it's not to judge it. It's to name it. A name rule is something we can work with, something you can work with. And then you don't have to break the rule. You just kind of need to spray a little bit of WD-40 on it, loosen it up by one notch. So the old rule might be, I must always cope. And the loosened rule could be, I can be capable and still ask for support. Or maybe it might be, I must always say yes. And you can loosen that up to be, I can pause before I commit. Or something that Frederica uses all the time, I must never disappoint anyone. And loosened up, that can be, maybe I can be respectful without taking responsibility for everyone else's feelings. And yes, believable matters. Don't replace I must always cope with I am a raging goddess of effortless boundlessness. Sorry, that's lovely for a mug, but it's absolutely useless in the meeting. Make it small enough to believe. I can take 10 seconds before I answer. I can ask one clarifying question. I can say what I can do, not just absorb everything. Because what I want is for your new belief, your new belief will help you. What's interesting is if your new belief makes you want to punch a cushion, it needs to be smaller. It definitely needs to be smaller. Then give yourself one clean sentence, not a speech, not a TED talk with some guilt attached to it. I always I can do X, but not Y. I am capable and have capacity to do A and B. Which priorities should move? Or I can support this, but I can't own it. You don't need a speech. You just need one sentence that doesn't apologize for your existence. And yes, your body may still react and you may still feel guilty. You may even get hot in the face, desperate to send another email, softening the first email, because apparently that one clear sentence now requires some emotional sequel. That does not mean you did the wrong thing. One of the things that I've learned is that discomfort is sign. Discomfort is always a warning. Sometimes it's just the feeling of an old pattern not getting its own way anymore. That's often what it is. So today, keep it small. What I want you to do before your next automatic yes, I want you to pause and ask, am I agreed from choice or from an old rule? And then take 90 seconds, feet on the floor, unclench your jaw, roll back your shoulders, a nice long exhale, and remind yourself this is discomfort. It's not danger. You don't need to become less capable. You need to stop making capability cost your health. Now, if this helps you recognize the version of yourself that's been trying to keep performing, follow work stress anxiety for practical, honest support with work stress, workplace anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. And what I want you to remember especially until the next time, is that every step you take, no matter how small, is a step towards a brighter, more balanced future. Trust in your journey. And remember, progress is progress, no matter the pace. Bye for now.